Hey guys, this is James Gray with the Gray Area Podcast. I just wrapped up episode 105 with Tristin Canada, and it is an incredible story of overcoming obstacles en route to greatness. I mean, I was so inspired by his story today, and I had no idea what this man had been through. So I hope you guys enjoy. Welcome to another podcast from the Michigan Institute of Athletics in Brighton, Michigan. It's going to be an awesome podcast today because I'm joined by one of my fighters. I'm really excited for this one. It's going to be a great story. Right before I get into it, I want to shout out VetLife. VetLife is a 501c3 nonprofit company. It's a company of veterans for veterans. Every veteran faces difficulties when they transition from active duty back to civilian life, and VetLife is there to ease that transition. If you want to reach out to VetLife, you can do so through Instagram or Facebook, or check out their website at vetlifetoday.org. So let's get right into it. I'm joined today by Tristin Canada, a gentleman that's on a quest, a journey, a lifestyle change, a dream. You have a lot of cool things going on in your life, but you know the way that I do my podcast. Before we talk about today, I want to take it all the way back. I want to know, where you were born and raised, what the family life was like. Events that shaped you into the man that you are today, the good, the bad, the ugly, a little bit of everything. And then we'll really get into, what you're doing at this point.
Yes, sir. So I was born in Warren, Michigan, about 45 minutes from here. I grew up, my mom had 2 kids by the time she was 17. So my mom really was, on her own. And, even her younger life, she kind of raised her brothers and sisters. So my mom had me and my sister. I had a stepdad who was really just there. Wasn't really the role he should be playing. So my mom kind of struggled.
And are you the older one, or is your sister older?
I am the oldest one.
You're the oldest.
Yep. My sister's 2 years younger than me. And so my mom kind of struggled, but, my mom's famous saying was, you might not have everything you want, but you have everything you need. So I was just kind of average kid, played a lot of baseball, basketball. Those were my first passions. That was basically about it, just me and my sister and my mom.
So, yeah, I want you to describe the dynamic, with your real father. Is he in the picture at all? Did you ever meet him? Did you know him? And then what was the dynamic that you had with the stepdad? Because you said he was just not really involved. Was he was in the home, he just never really interacted? Was it negative interactions? Let's break down those aspects.
Well, he was there. My mom was with him since I was 4. And he would mentally abuse me, but it really didn't start until I was a little older. About 8 until I was about 15. And it started mentally, over basketball, because we were a basketball family and we played a lot of basketball. So it kind of stemmed from there. And when I was a kid, you might not believe it, from my frame now, I was very skinny and I had a big head and big ears. So it turned from, I was just they'd flick my ears and make fun of my ears, and I was a nerd because I played Yu-Gi-Oh, I guess. So they'd make fun of that. But as I got older and, I started getting a little bit better at basketball, it turned into, physical. If we played, it would turn into, if I scored, I'm getting a ball thrown off my head, my nose is bleeding. So it just turned into kind of a dynamic where I wanted to fit in with him, my stepdad and his brother. But I don't know if I wanted to fit in with him to stop the mental and physical abuse, or I haven't figured that part out in my psychology yet, but it still affects me to this day. But a lot of the things that happen, I feel kind of shape me now.
So when you were young, you knew that wasn't the right way to be, though. You didn't look at them as great people and great leaders. You didn't obviously there's probably a certain dynamic where people look up to older people. When we're kids, we look up to people that are older than us and we expect certain things. Then when you're not seeing it, or if they're a poor example of character, it's what are you doing? You're the adult, I'm a child, you're treating me like this, what's going on? Did you know that these aren't my people, this is not what I want to be like when I was young? Or were you kind of just in this loss, is this the way that people are? Because that kind of lays out paths in your life. You could have grown up to be an abusive, I got to be on top of the hierarchy, knock anyone down that's, around me. A lot of times kids do monkey see, monkey do. Right. Or you go I'm going to not be like that when I'm older. There's, I'm not going to turn into a man like that. Which was it for you?
Well, I wish I could say I went the complete opposite way, but, I didn't. I kind of embraced a little bit of that because I thought that's what, was. I was like a creature of, habit. So I saw, the way my stepfather would talk to my mom. So I thought that was okay to talk to women that way. And, I would see the way they would, just any average person on the street, the way they just clown on them. So I thought that's what I had to be to fit in with them. Then as I got older, I'm like, this is not what I want to be. When I got to like 16, I said, this is not it.
Was there a light switch moment where you were like, man, like this is just not it? Yeah, yes, you're shaking head. Tell me about that.
There was a moment where he used to have his friend and his brother over. We used to have a pool table in the basement, and it had turned physical a couple times. But I just kind of, rolled over, and I was a kid fighting a grown man. I was scared. But there was a moment where I had just got home from my friends, and I wanted to go down, and we were playing. Everything was cool. I played pool with him and his friends and his brother. My mom was down there. They were having some drinks, and it just turned into we're play wrestling, and then he always had like this look where he'd grit his teeth, and we were play wrestling, and he gave me that look and like put a forearm frame like on my neck, and the next second I'm on the ground, and that was just like a switch to me because I looked up and like I looked at the fear that I had been looking at for a majority of my life, and I said, I'm done with this. I'm tired of feeling like the victim, and I like ended up just jackrabbing it out and standing up, and without saying, I told him, next time you touch me, I will kill you, and I meant every word of it. So if there was like one moment, I would say that was like the coming of like me finally standing up and like almost taking the first step and becoming a man and not playing that victim anymore.
Yeah, 100%. You said enough is enough. Like this, it ends today. Test me on it. You're bigger than me. You're stronger than me. But I'll find a way. Like
Right.
you know what I mean? If I can't kick your ass, I'll grab something, smack you with it,
Right.
or I'll bring you. You get to a point in life like that where you've just had enough, and you're like, I will not tolerate anymore. And you have to put your foot down that vehemently with someone like that. And even when you do, a lot of the times they'll like poke you and test you and like, oh, okay, tough guy. Like that's kind of the way they usually respond until they find out they can't bully you anymore. And once they get to that stage, then they just kind of leave you alone. And then usually later on, there's like apology and like, oh, I shouldn't have been like that and blah, blah, blah. But it just like kind of bounces off. You're like, yeah, duh, you still did it. It doesn't change the fact. You know what I mean? It's shocking now. Like you grew up to be a cage fighter, like stand across from me now. Try to bully me now. You know what I mean? And maybe that was the reason that martial arts kind of spoke to you a little bit, because as a child, if you don't reframe those stories to an abusive adult was bullying me around at a time where I couldn't defend myself, but that's not who I am now. A lot of people don't reframe that. So they go through events or things like that in their life, and then they stay a victim forever. They stay or they become a very angry, spiteful, resentful person because of the way they were treated by someone that was close to them, instead of being like, no, that's just who that person was, and I'm not going to be like that. And it sounds like you did make that switch. I'm not going to speak to women the way that they do. I'm not going to clown on people the way that they do. That's not what good human beings do. But you think there was a moment in your life, or there was a period of your life where you were a little bit of a bully? You played the exact role that man was doing to you?
Yeah, I did. Like it was all like stems from basketball. So basketball was like our huge passion in our family. We'd watch every Piston game.
Was someone a big basketball player, or was it just they were just fans, or what?
He was just a big fan and thought he was good because he played on the street, but he never played on a team. Like I've accomplished more in basketball than he did. But, it all stemmed from that. And it would turn into, I would see them kind of bully me, like when we'd play in the backyard or in the street, if we go up to the park. And I would do that to people. If someone called a foul, I would call them a wussy, or, in other words. Or I would say, don't be soft. Or, I'd clown them. I'd bully them. And it just kind of turned on, like that situation I was talking about a second ago. It would just turn from where I would kind of bucket dip on people, and bully them, to where I want to not be that. I want to bucket fill. I want to make people feel good, feel better, because I know what it's like. So I would say that situation. I was a bully, but then I kind of turned like my sophomore year into a better person and started taking that first step to being a bucket filler, I call it.
Now, did that start to change you in all of the aspects of your life, or did that come slowly over time? Did you start being better in your relationships and better with your friends and better with girlfriends and better, or did you just stop the negative and then you're kind of in this space where you're trying to figure out who you are and like how you act? Because if you've always been one role, it's bizarre to just kind of rubber band right to the other side. Just describe it a little bit more before we, get out of high school.
I just I would see people that were like defenseless, like
You could almost see yourself in them. You could
right.
see the people that needed the help, that were being bullied, and you know what that feels like. You remember the multiple days where your stepfather is bullying you. So you can relate to those people exactly what that feels like. And then if you can look in the mirror and go like, shit, I've done that to people.
Mm-hmm.
That has been me. For as much as harm and psychological damage as he tried to cause to me as a child, I was doing that. That's a huge awakening.
Yeah, and it turned into like even like little situations like where I would see like special needs kids getting picked on at school. I would resort to, I'm gonna take it to whatever means, because I've been there. I know what it's like to look across and see fear. You don't know why it's happening. You know it makes you feel empty, and you feel defenseless. You want to take a stand, and in most cases you can, but you don't want to. For me, it was always like, I don't want to take that because I don't want them to feel bad. Almost, it's like a weird psychology. Like I'm still trying to figure it out now. It's like I didn't want confrontation at home, but then I'm like, well, I'm gonna cause confrontation to help this person out, because I might not be able to help myself, but I'm gonna help this person in the hallway that's getting their book smacked on the ground, or they're getting smacked, and a lot of times I can count on probably two hands. It's turned physical where I threw even teammates up against the wall. You're not gonna do that in front of me.
That's huge, man. And really, I can see it in your eyes when you're trying to reflect back to like, why didn't I stand up to him more? But like, you are a kid against a grown man who were like, let's say you really try to chest up to him. If this is a dude with no morals or no real character, he could have beat your ass worse. He could have made it 10 times worse on you than what it was. So all of a sudden it's like, there's some battles that are worth taking on as men. We're much more willing now to like, I'm a man. You can't bully me mentally, physically. Like, I won't allow it. And even if you can kick my ass, I'm going to come back tomorrow. Like, you can't do it. But as a child, you don't have that strength of character yet. You might not even have the physical resources or the tools to be able to really fight back. So you got to forgive yourself. You got to forgive the kid that I should have done this, or I should have. No, you shouldn't. You were a kid. You want to get your ass beat worse? Do you want him to bully you even worse? No, you shouldn't have. You should learn the lessons that you did. You should learn that it's better to be a good human being. You should develop your character, right? But you shouldn't have done anything different. Forgive the past, move forward. So when, because you've referenced now, you said when I was in high school, was basketball the only sport?
I played baseball as well.
So you're a dual sport athlete. You're playing basketball, you're playing baseball. Sounds like you were really passionate for basketball. How many years did you play?
In high school, I played all 4 years.
All 4 years. And you said you're like, hey, you wouldn't believe it now, but I was really skinny back then. I want to talk about the journey into what was your weight at the highest? How did you get there? Mm. And, did you have life events that shaped you or things that happened to you that took you off the course? We got to talk about those dark times because that's why your journey is so inspirational now.
Yeah, well, like I said, when I was a kid, I was, built like a lollipop. But then as the, times with my stepdad started, I started to be like, well, maybe I need to eat food. That was like my stress reliever. And I'd stay in my room and I'd just only come out to use the restroom or eat. So over time, I just started getting a bigger kid. And then, when I was in high school, I was 245. I was a big kid, and then I ended up getting kicked out of high school, and I ended up getting really depressed. And
I got to hear the story about how you get kicked out of high school.
Right. So I was in high school. It was my junior year. As any young man does, we're kids. We're gonna talk to multiple women at the same time. And I was doing that, and I was talking to a girl, but I didn't really see like a thing there, and like it was kind of just a fling, and I ended up taking a different girl to prom, and there was a fabrication of a story, and I ended up getting kicked out of high school. over something that I didn't do, and it later come out after the fact that it was a lie, and she went to the principal and told it was a lie. But the damage was already done. I was already kicked out of high school, and I had a lot of opportunities in college. I wanted to go to college. I didn't get to graduate with my friends. Really all my friends turned their back on me. So that was that. And after that, I kind of spiraled. I didn't want to play basketball anymore. I didn't really want to go out of the house because if I went to the mall, people would be like, that's a monster right there. And it messes with me, and it still messes with me because something was ripped away. I didn't get to walk across with my best friend Noah. I didn't get to play my senior year with my best friend. So I just spiraled into a time where, I got a job right after because I couldn't go to school. So I'm like, well, I might as well make money. So I got a job at Texas Roadhouse, and every day this was my schedule for 9 months. I would go to work at 4, get off at 11, stay up from 11:30 till 7 in the morning, and I would eat everything in my house. I would have a 2-liter of whatever pop was in my fridge, and I would take Texas Roadhouse rolls for me and my mom home, and I would destroy everything in the house. And I would just lay on my bed watching YouTube at whatever popped up, and I would just do that every day. And I would wake up 30 minutes before I had to go to work and do it all again.
So you had slipped into an incredibly dark place, deep depression, and it was something that was unjust. That's even worse. Like if you did something wrong, or so I'm sure there's wrong in the story. Like I shouldn't have been doing what I was doing, talking to multiple girls. I was asking for drama. You can own up to the things that you could have done better. But to then have a fabrication or a lie told about you that rips your entire world down, you could have become a victim for the rest of your life. You could have become the guy, it's not my fault, this is the reason this happened. But you're stuck in this unjust reality where you had, like you said, your friends taken away from you, your sponsorship opportunity, anything. Your life was ripped from you, man. And now you're at the very bottom. And like you said, at that age, you think you have friends, but you have what people have? Acquaintances. And as soon as you're the one that is labeled like this, that, or the other thing, your friends don't see you as no way, that's my boy. I'm going to be there for him no matter what. We're still going to get together. They're like, oh, that happened. It's unfortunate. And they might still communicate with you, but the ties are kind of severed, right? So you go to this incredibly low place. What is your mind saying about the story? Because are you on a campaign that's saying I didn't do it, I'm going to prove my innocence, did you just accept what took place and you fell into a depression? And then, so I want you to really try to, as much as you can remember, work through what your mind was saying during that time, and then what finally gets you to start coming out of it. How are you not still just smashing food in a depression in your house, telling the story of how you were victimized in high school to this day?
Well, I'm not going to sit up here and say I completely changed everything overnight. It was like a 9 month to a year thing for me to finally be like, well, I got to change something. I'm 315 pounds right now. None of my clothes fit. There's times where I'm not showering for 3 days because I don't want to get up.
You're just depressed to the fullest, man.
And, I'd be lying if I sat up here and I didn't have nights where I would go on walks and I'd be like, I just want to run away. I don't even want to be here. There were times where, I was suicidal, and there were times where, nobody's going to miss me if I really leave anyways. So, it was like that for a long time, and honestly, I would watch YouTube every night. I don't know why. It was just something I did. I'd watch, and it's something I still do today when I eat. I just have to watch YouTube.
It's probably an escape. I mean, you can just give your brain something to be able to focus on, even if it's almost just white noise, versus letting your brain spiral into whatever thought process you might go into. You're just feeding the brain with some type of entertainment. You know what I mean? So you can almost autopilot out. This is what I do. I just eat and consume. You know what I mean? And it's hard to break habits like that because they're almost subconscious. When you do them long enough, you're not even consciously thinking about what you're really doing. You're just doing it. And that's you got to break those patterns. And those patterns are super difficult to break. But so there was no real because I don't know, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. And I'm thinking if someone had lied about me and it led to all these things, I would be campaigning against that. the entire time, like, how do I prove that this is wrong? And like, but it sounds like you just accepted your punishment, like your fate, even if it was unjust.
Well, we went through the whole, like, me and my mom, we fought it as much as we could. We went, obviously it starts with your principal. You have a meeting with your principal, and then it goes to the board. I had I think like a 2 to 3 hour meeting with the board, and, they kind of tore into me, just, kind of painted me as the monster. It really didn't give me a chance to, like, lay out the facts, and that I wasn't even in the room that she said. I wasn't anywhere she said that this happened. And, they didn't really give me a chance to say anything, speak my will. I said what, I think I said something. I was scared and I was, like, emotional. I think I told them, I was crying. I said, I'm sorry that this happened, that this whole thing, that we have to be here for this, but, give me another chance. I didn't do this. She said that I didn't do this. Now you guys are throwing me out because her mom's causing a big deal. Like, I don't get why this is happening to me. And, something that, like, always bothered me too is, like, they didn't give my mom a chance to, like, say anything to defend her son. And, like, I felt so embarrassed sitting there next to my mom as she's crying. And at that time, I was like, I really hope my mom doesn't think that I'm a monster like these people are saying. Because in my life, I really just want my mom to be proud of me. So at that time, I was just, like, devastated, because I'm like, my mom doesn't know what to think. These people are calling me a monster. She's only going off of what I said and what this girl is saying. So I was super embarrassed. We fought as much as we could with them already having a predetermined judgment of me. So
Yeah, that is an incredibly shaping and impactful thing to go through as a young kid. That's like you're fighting for your life because it's your image, your identity, the way that your mom is going to view you. You know what I mean? Because you're juggling all these things. And that is a traumatic experience to go through as a young child. So then you slip into this depression. You probably give up on most of life. You just work to go home to eat, to zombie out, and you're just in this state. Was it just the weight and the depression that finally you just had enough of? What was it when you finally flipped the switch? What did you start doing differently that started picking you up a little bit? Because usually it's like baby steps. Like you do something a little different. You decide, I'm not just going to lay around here. I'm going to reconnect with a friend. I'm going to go out. I'm going to kind of give me the build-up story out of the darkness.
Well, on my hours, like, of being on YouTube, you get suggested videos and stuff. I'd watch anything from, like, old wrestling videos to, funny dog videos, just stupid stuff like that. And one day I was looking down and the video came up. It was a Conor McGregor, like, funniest moments, and I thought it was funny. So I just started watching that, and then it turned into watching fights of his. And then it turned into me literally walking in the middle of the night and going in shadow boxing as best as I can and at a park. And then it turned into, I did Muay Thai for a little bit when I was 13. I'm a good athlete for my size. This could be something. So I just started doing that on the side, like, by myself. I really didn't let anyone know my ambition. I let my girlfriend at the time know. I would talk a bunch of stuff like I'm going to be the best fighter in the world before I had even stepped in a gym. So then, a couple months, I'd say 5 or 6 months goes by of having this. I'm like, well, I have a job. I can pay for this. I'm going to go take this leap of faith. So then I joined a gym.
I've never really told you in depth some parts of my life story, but you don't realize how similar we are, because during some of my darkest depression, times where I would, like, go to my school and then just, like, leave. I would just leave. I'd just get in my car. I'd sneak out of school, just leave, and I would go sit somewhere and I'd be, like, bawling my eyes out. I was going through a lot, which some of the struggles that I've gone through. Bruce Lee was, for some reason, such an inspirational character to me and, like, helped keep me in some type of state. I don't know, something about, he was like a heroic figure. He was, like, iconic. He was something that, like, gave me an image of what to strive for. Like, yes, you are here currently, but there are men that have lived this life in this incredible way, this incredible light, that radiate this energy that I want, that, like, I want to be like that. It sounds like you're telling me the exact same story and you found inspiration in Conor McGregor.
Yeah. I just feel like other than him being like hilarious, and I don't know if like recently I made the connection. Maybe it was like something that I was missing, like confidence in myself. He's over the top confident. I'm like, well, damn, maybe I need some of that. Let me start, trying to apply that to my life, and and obviously I wanted to, strive to be the best martial artist I could be once I fell in love with it. But I'm like, at first it just turned into I'm missing something in my life. Low self-esteem. Obviously, he has a ton of self-esteem, so I just took what I could and tried to apply it to myself.
It makes perfect sense. It's almost like you saw something in such a vibrant light radiating through that YouTube video screen that you were like, God, if I could have some of that, my life would be better. And that's, in a weird way, it ties in exactly to how I felt. I felt like this man just really had life by the neck. Like he had a grip on this thing. Like he was powerful spiritually, physically, technically. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. Like how could you not have self-confidence if you were like that? You know what I mean? So you walk into a gym for the first time, you're 315 pounds here. Start to build me the story of like, because I'm sure classes were devastatingly tough being someone that was used to athletics. You were a basketball player, you're athletic, you know how to push yourself. You go into the gym at 300 pounds and the last 9 months are sitting around watching YouTube and eating food. It was probably extremely difficult. And you had to get past the way that you look, the way that other people are judging you, et cetera, et cetera. Build me that story.
Well, at first I was like really scared. Like it took me 6 months to go into a gym, and then I started expressing it to my mom and stuff. And my grandpa was like fought in Golden Gloves, and like he was in World War II and fought in the army and stuff. And so fighting's like always kind of been a part of my life, because I remember times when I was a kid, my grandpa would just put on Muhammad Ali and just watch stuff like that. So I was like, this is like destiny. So I just finally just took the leap of faith, because I was like terrified to go into a gym, because I'm like, I don't know none of these people. I'm going to get my ass whooped for a little bit, and I'm out of shape. So it was tough. It was tough to hit the bag for 3 minutes. But I'm like a person where if I can see something and see somebody do it, like I can get it. Like give me a few days, I'm going to dedicate to doing it, and I'm going to pick it up fast, and I'm a quick learner. So and for my size, I've always been super nimble on my feet, and I think I got that from like basketball, just always on the balls of my feet and stuff. So I picked up pretty fast, and it's just every day that I was like there learning, I would go home and I just want to sleep, because I'd want to, I was getting my butt whooped a little bit, so I'm like, no, this can't happen. I'm gonna keep going, and it just turned into a thing where I became obsessed with every little thing about it. Jiu-jitsu, wrestling, striking, obviously. Like I loved every aspect. I even loved getting my ass whooped a little bit. But I just know who I am. I'm just gonna keep showing up every day. And that was just my thing. I would just tell myself, if I got subbed a bunch of time in MMA rounds, I'll be here tomorrow. I'm gonna just try to keep getting better and chipping away every time. So that's what I did.
So now when you really start to get into training and you start setting these goals, you start feeling where you're at, you start, kind of having a vision, are you still going home and just zombieing out on YouTube and smashing food? Did you start to look at your relationship with food in the way that you were living at home and be like, hey, like this isn't really cohesive with the dream that I have, or does that come much later? And, just tell me about how your environment at home starts to change, how your mind starts to change, just any changes that are taking place during this point.
Well, I wish I could say my relationship with food changed. I wasn't eating in the middle of the night because I was tired after training, so I would just sleep. But I was always on the go because I was in a new relationship. I was young, so we'd just always be on the go. So my food was fast food. But my weight slowly started to come because just of how hard I'd work. I'd show up like an hour and a half before class and hit the bag, and then do class. So it started to come off, and it would have came off faster if I would have changed my diet, but obviously I didn't. So it was just adjusting to how hard I was going to have to push, and it slowly, gradually came, and then, I had my first fight with like 6 months training. So, it took me about 6 months to get that weight off, and then my first fight, I think I weighed like 262. something like that.
So now are you starting to experience a little bit of happiness and fulfillment during this journey that you haven't had in a long time? You're setting goals, you're seeing your weight come down a little bit, you're developing skills. Is that affecting you mentally?
It was, but I always I still go through this today. 5 years with doing this, I like kind of suffer from imposter syndrome. I'm like, everyone will say like, Tristin, you're so good at striking. You're tough, but I don't think I am, and that comes from obviously the mental abuse and stuff like that. But at that time, I had my first fight. I was 19, and I was fighting this 34-year-old juggernaut, like, of a human being, tattoos everywhere, looked steroided out, and it was the calmest I've ever been for any of my fights. And he beat my ass the first round, and then I beat his ass the rest of the fight. And I remember, I didn't know about it until after my fight, but this is the biggest mental change I've ever had in my life. My mom left after the first round. She went out in the outside, couldn't watch it because he was just hitting my ribs up against the cage. And the second round starts. Let me backtrack. The first round, he's hitting my ribs, and there was a moment in there, and I thought of my stepdad. I'm like, am I going to roll over and sit down and let him TKO me? Or am I going to withstand this and I'm going to become a man today? And obviously I took that man step, and the second round starts, and I come out and I come straight for him like, this is not happening to me. I'm becoming a man today, and I hit him with a spinning back fist, drop him. The crowd goes crazy because I'm this 19-year-old chubby kid with not an ounce of facial hair or anything, and my sister runs out, and she says, he's beating his ass. And my mom comes in. Long story short, at the end of the fight, the last 10 seconds, I'm, like, unloading on this guy. And after I look and I find my mom, I have his blood all over my face, all over my chest, and I scream at her. I said, what? And I said, I told you. And she just looked at me, and, like, I'll never forget this look. She just got tears in her eyes, and she just points at me. And that was, like, the moment my mom said, like, she tells me all the time, I saw him come out, and she said, Tristan, I thought he was going to kill you. And after that fight, you became a man in my eyes. So that was probably the biggest mental change I've ever had in my life.
And that's redemption for that young boy. That young kid that you probably played over your head 60 million times with what you should have done or could have done, or why don't you do this or do that, which, I mean, these are illusions. You weren't a man yet. That man got to come out and get redemption for that kid that had to take all that abuse and that fear and that, that guy tried to bring it to you. He said, hey, why don't you just quit? Roll over. I'm bigger than you. I'm stronger than you. I'm older than you. I'm da-da-da-da-da. And you were like, nope. And now that feeling is probably absolutely infectious, life-changing. You become a different man after that fight. When you get your hand raised at the end of that night, what is that moment like? Your family's there. I don't know if you finish him or if you win by decision. And now what does life start to look like after that? Does that really start to change your trajectory? You just won your first MMA fight.
Well, when I dropped him in the second, I accidentally hit him in the back of the head. I took a point away from me. So it ended up being a draw because I didn't get the finish. So I was like, man, I got back, and, like, I was like, this is it. I'm here now. This is what God put me on this planet to do. This is what I was supposed to do. This is why all this is led up to this. My whole life is led up. I've been a fighter my whole life, and now I've just proved it to myself. So then a month later, I fought again in Chicago, and I won by knockout. And then I fought again a month later. I took a fight on 5 days' notice against the number one guy in the state at the time. Nearly finished him at the end of the first, and then I ended up getting finished at the second. In the second round, but it inspired me because I had finally proven something a little bit to myself. I'd still had those doubts and be like, man, well, I'm gonna run into somebody, and I'm just fighting. I'm starting my career. I'm getting these, kind of semi-easy fights. I'm gonna run into somebody, and it's just that imposter syndrome, and I still suffer from it a lot more, these days, because things are becoming more into light, and I'm soon gonna go pro, so. I suffer a lot from that, and at that time, that second fight meant a lot to me because it proved that, I can finish a grown man, and, that was the biggest extent of it at that time.
And you really, when you say things like imposter syndrome and you talk about like how your mind is going to mess with you, you have to combat that with the truth as much as possible. You've got to lay out like, no, I've busted my ass to acquire these skills. I've gone through incredibly difficult rounds. I've changed my life. I've pushed myself to limits and then broke barriers, and now I'm discovering new limits, because the man that sits here today is light years beyond the man that existed before. But yet that kid that was first shadowboxing and won his first fight probably had the confidence that was supreme, even if it was a false confidence, being like, I'm ready. You're light years beyond now. It's just doubt is still there, and you have to constantly combat that with the truth. You do live rounds with Josh Parisian, the only Michigan heavyweight UFC fighter, right? Like, just this morning, before you're sitting on this podcast, you, Ty, and Josh are putting in incredibly hard work together. How are you an imposter?
Right.
How are you an imposter? You're doing live rounds against the only heavyweight UFC fighter from Michigan. That's because you belong in those moments. You put in the work. You're achieving the goals. So you have to constantly combat that. When your brain tries to whisper to you, you got to remind it of that. Hey, who did I train with this morning? Why don't you tell me real quick? Your brain's going to be like, no, you suck. You're not good. Oh, really? Who was I training with? Oh, that guy from on ESPN on June 25th? Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh, yeah. Am I making my pro debut coming? Yeah. Wait a second. Am I on the elite team? Do I dedicate myself? Am I changing my life? You got to combat that with the truth. And you have to beat your own brain down, because there's a part of our psychology that's an unfortunate part, but maybe it helps us unlock our greatness, that is always like, you're not good enough. You don't have this. You don't have that. And you've got to beat that thing's ass. You know what I mean? And a lot of times it'll embrace like the voice of that stepfather. It's like, you're never going to be blah, 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 blah. And you got to be like, all right, well, let's go. Let's find out. You know what I mean? So you got to make sure you hammer back at that voice, and you got to lay things out factually. And you have to look at the hard work that you're putting in. And you have to look at you have a lot of winners around you. You have a lot of people changing their life and achieving their goals and achieving their dreams and dominating right around you. Are they imposters? Then why would you be? You know what I'm saying? So you got to make sure you combat that with the truth. So you start to have some wins, you have some losses, you have some setbacks. Do you get discouraged when you take your first couple losses, or is it like, hey, this is part of the process? Describe that period of your life for me, and then I want you to talk about, like, why are you here? How did you come to SFS? Why are you at SFS? And then we'll start to build like more to today's story.
Well, when I suffered my first loss, it really messed with me and affected the way I fought my second fight, because I got hit with a good shot, and there was a moment where I can see like him as clear as I see you, but then I like feel myself taking a seat, and then he just ended up passing guard and finished me from mount. But it messed with my my mindset, because I'm like, well, man, this is it now. What do I do? This is my first loss. I don't know how to rebound from this. So then I didn't fight for 5 months, and I fought again, and same thing happened my first fight. I ended up dropping him, hitting him in the back of the head, and a draw again. So then I'm at like a standstill. I'm like, well, I got to make a change, because I'm really not training with anybody elite, and I'm like, sometimes I'm the only person there. It's a really small gym, and then I said I got to make a change. So then I make a change to Allegiance Jiu-Jitsu.
And where were you at before?
I was at Sodutai with Isaiah, and
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I had no idea you were with Isaiah Gathings, right?
Yep.
So that's where you started,
mm-hmm.
and then you transitioned. You said, okay, my goals are bigger than this. They gave me a good start. They're nice people, but I have to go to the next level.
Right. And then I made that change, and I went to Allegiance with Brendan Sieglin, and that's when I started to kind of get a little bit better and make progressions in my jiu-jitsu, and start to really understand why things happen in the game, and start to make the transition. Because at my first gym, if we were striking, we were striking. If we were rolling or wrestling, we were just grappling. There was no in between, and that's when I started to make the put them together as much as I could. And I went on a 2-fight winning streak. It's not really a winning streak, but I won 2 fights in a row, and I got 2 finishes. And then I was 3-1 and 2, so it was like kind of an odd record. And then I ended up fighting Ray Hernandez at Ron DeLeon's show, and I lost by split decision. And And then I fought in December on Ron's show again, and I ended up getting TKO'd. The first time I'd ever like tasted like that darkness. I didn't get fully out, but I tasted it, and it scared the shit out of me. And I'm like, well, now I'm 3-3-2. I have a kid on the way, or I thought I did at the time. We ended up having a miscarriage, but I said I gotta have to make a change. If you really want this, as much as you say you do, if you really have this feeling in your heart that you're meant to be this, you have to make a change. And I had always saw you around, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I would always see you, and I'm like, that's a bad man right there, bro. I said I would see you guys always show up in your jackets. I'm like I've told you this before. Like you guys are like Duke. Like Duke, wherever they go, they have like that just prestigious winning, and I'm like, I want to be that. I want to be a part of their team and learn from you, because I'd see the way you coached, and I was like, I know the way I learn. I said that's going to be the best person for me to hopefully succeed the things I want. So, I made that change. I was training a little bit because I lost that fight in December of 2019, and then I came to you guys in September of 2020, and it was probably it is the best decision I've ever made as far as my career and my life goes.
So you come here, you have a little bit of background, you got a different training. Our environment is probably a lot different than what you're used to, or standards or training, or I don't even want to speculate. But what are the major differences that you notice, from coaching or environment or anything like that? And then how does your life start to change in general? Because I remember the first time you came in, I do everything the exact same with any new person. I was like, hey, I need you to go into fundamentals class so I can see your basics. And I remember watching you in the first striking class you took here. And I'm going like, this guy is not a brand new beginner, because I didn't know anything about you. I didn't know your record or anything really. And I'm watching you, and I'm going, okay, that guy's pretty smooth on the feet. Like, he moves extremely well. And I think I told you your first, or maybe your second class. I think I let you do a full class. And then when you were here the second time, I don't remember if it was the first or second, but I went up to you and I was like, listen, it's obvious that you are not a fundamental striker. Like, I'd like to move you into our competition team. You know what I mean? Or I let you train with our fighters.
Yeah, I remember I forgot who I was going with, but we were doing like a 6 combo drill, and like it was 5 minutes in the class. You said, yeah, come here. And you put me with Latavius and someone else. But that was like one of the first times I came out and tried class, because I wasn't a part of the elite team yet, because you were just now starting it. And then the XFC tryouts came, and then I did really well there. I ended up dropping that one guy, and then man, like this like meant so much to me. Like, you messaged me I think a couple days after and said, hey man, you're definitely good enough to be on the team. I want you to come out and join the team. And like to this day, that means so much for you to like message me, because obviously the respect I have for you. But that, like, I remember showing Kyle, I'm like, bro, James Gray just messaged me and said be a part of the team. I said, I'm going. So that was the extent to that. And then I was here that Tuesday, I believe.
So now you've joined for the people that don't know, we have 2 ways to level up martial arts in this academy, or to be a fighter, right? You can take regular classes. You can do kickboxing, boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and kind of structure your schedule however you want, train when you want, etc. And then we have our elite team, which is, there are requirements to it. There's character lessons. There's life lessons. I mean, I kind of hammer you guys in every single way, but it's for your own greatness. It's not for my ego. It's to bring out the absolute best version of you possible, because if I do that, it liberates the people around you. It allows you to go further in your career, which then shows other people a pathway forward, which then hopefully you inspire and motivate, and the ripples outward can, level up our community and everything like that. What is it about the elite program that has hit you so substantially? Because you are drastically changing your life. Not as a as a fighter, as a man, as a friend, as a boyfriend, as a worker for a company. Like, you are leveling up across the board. Why is that happening?
Well, I think obviously it starts at the top. There's a reason I call you the general and we're all your soldiers. It starts at the top. The infectious positivity you bring to each like Sunday practice, and if we can't show up and be half as positive as you, we're doing something wrong on our end, because you're always so busy, and the way you show up, it's infectious. And besides that, I'd say the camaraderie. we don't have everyone in here is like wants to see the other one succeed, and if we have like that oddball out, they kind of get weeded out. We're all super close. It's not just we come in here and we punch our punch in and we leave. We hang out and we just gain friendship through the elite program, and we're all here for one another. If one of us loses, we're all here. We're messaging each other. We have group chats. I don't know how many group chats I'm in, but we have a ton of group chats, and the camaraderie and the positive energy. I look forward to it every day. I'm excited to come train with Jackson Barlow. Excited to come train with Ty. I'm excited to come here and train underneath you, train with Josh, help Josh get ready, and even though this is a singular sport and you're in there alone, I don't feel like that when I go in. I feel like I have you in my corner. I have Ty, Jackson Ross, Josh, Miles, everyone, Kyle, everyone there. We're a team in every aspect of the word.
So one of the things we've discovered, you've had a couple fights now under the SFS banner, and you've had some wars. You've had some split decisions where commentators and people are like, listen, you won the fight. I mean, you've had against some quality competition, and you've really shown your evolving skill set in these fights, especially in the grappling department too, in your ability to handle yourself on the wall and on the ground against much bigger men. But one of the biggest realizations we had is you're not a heavyweight. You're just not meant to be a heavyweight. You're fighting these refrigerators. You're fighting these literal polar bears. And it's like, okay, you don't belong in this division. I remember, I had mentioned it to you a couple times, like, you're not a real heavyweight, right? Like, look at Josh Parisian, look at Jackson Ross. Like, those are heavyweights. They're Neanderthal people. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. They are framed to be heavyweights. You are not. And I really started kind of like coming down on that because you don't need to experience losses and defeats and setbacks for people that you have no business competing against. Your greatness lies at 205 or 185. That's where your greatness lies. And if you're in pursuit of that greatness, we have to get there. So now you're on a serious lifestyle change journey, probably the most difficult journey of your story yet, harder than showing up to an MMA academy where you may or may not have a tough practice, because you have to rewire your brain. You have to change the psychology in here and the habits and the things when you're not around the energy. When you don't have your boys right at your back going, don't eat that. Leave that alone. Go for a walk instead of sitting down. Drink more water. I want you to kind of talk about the switch when it flipped and now the journey that you're on and the progress you've made.
Well, I'd always talked before about it, and we had mentioned it, and it was just one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I'll do it when I want to. And it didn't really dawn on me until my last fight. I'd always been in every fight, even the fights I was losing, I was winning. I've never been dominated until my last fight.
By the way, if you haven't seen his last fight, he fought the literal Incredible Hulk. He just didn't paint himself green that night. Like, if you go back, when this guy walks out, he is probably the most diesel human being I have seen in amateur MMA in a long time. I mean, he is the definition of diesel. It was the Incredible Hulk versus Tristin, and Tristin did everything he possibly could, but it was just so overwhelmingly apparent in that fight that you're not a heavyweight, because it wasn't a skill difference. Skill-wise, you were much cleaner on the feet. You were even cleaner in the grappling exchanges. He was just able to physically dominate you because of the size. You can't deny it seeing that video. So it was finally like, okay, we have to make a change. There's no more maybe.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that fight, like, till this day, I know he's not a better fighter than me, and I know in the word fighter, he will not die in there. I saw it in his eyes every time I'd get up. I made it a point after every round to stand up first to let him know, you're gonna have to take me out of here because I'm gonna be here. But it just was apparent when he would shoot. I would feel, even when I heard him a few times with like counter hooks. He was just so much stronger than anybody I've ever grappled against, and I grapple against savages, and I was like, man, this is, I did everything right. I got my frames, I did everything, and I just feel my legs slowly start to go together, and I was like, after the fight, I we went to beat-ups the next day, and I won't be mad at anyone for saying that they didn't believe me, but I said tomorrow, which was a Monday, April 4th, it starts.
You said it to me. I was there. You looked me dead in the face and you told me my life is going to be changing. I'm going to do it. And I said to you, I'm not going to let you fight again until you get to 205 because once I saw that type of commitment in your eyes and that energy, I said, okay, I'm going to hold him to this. You're telling me you're going to change your life. You're going to go from 260 or 265 pounds down to probably 220, 225. That's where we need to be a 205er. All right, fine. You say you're making the commitment. I'm going to say we're not fighting until that point. So we both made like an ironclad promise to each other at that point where, you know, I've had fight offers come in that I'm like, oh my God, this guy's not a real heavyweight. It makes perfect sense. And I'm like, nope, that's not what you said. And you did. You literally did flip a light switch that day. And you said, no, I'm a different man now. So I want you to start talking about when you wake up in the morning, what's different? When you have the decision to go and eat shit food or not, what's different? When you're sitting around and yet I see all these videos of you at the track with your daughter, you're out in the sunshine, you're walking around, I see you smashing the water. Why? How are you keeping it? That's really important because the initial motivation, that sparks all kind of people. How many people do you know that say they're going to change their life? They get an initial spark, they're fired up for 48 hours, they do the right thing, and then the motivation fades and they don't have the discipline to keep things on track. Why are you able to keep them on track?
I think because it's a mixture of things. I was dominated, and I had that feeling of, the stepfather. I'm like, this isn't coming back. You know, I've done everything I can to keep this buried. This isn't coming back, and I'm getting older. I'm gonna be 25 at the end of the year. I need to make this happen. I have a kid, and I've always had this feeling that I'm not here to be middle anything. I'm here to be the best, and I'm gonna be the best because I'm gonna show up every day. And I might not be the most athletic, and I might not be the slickest or any of that stuff, but every day I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna march down and kill you if I can. And I just feel like it's a mixture of all those things. It needs to happen now. I have to go to 205. I'm tired of people saying, "Whoa, Tristin, your record." Well, come into the gym and fight me then. And we'll talk about that. It's just I've been fighting huge dudes that I have no business being in. And I said it needs to happen now. And I'm not fighting. And I'm not going to let James offer me a fight until I get to 205. Because I want to fight every day. And I probably annoy you so much because I want to fight every weekend. But I don't have that right now. I'm enjoying the process of waking up and not... Like, when I was eating crappy foods, I would be like, man, let me just destroy all this. And I was more hungry when I was eating crappy food. Now that I'm eating healthy, sometimes I struggle to eat my third meal. So I'm just, every day I wake up, I enjoy my first meal. I'm enjoying having good portions. And I'm enjoying the way it's making me feel performance-wise. Because I don't care how I look. I'm not an image-based person. My whole life is centered around being the best fighter and father and person I can be.
Well, you got me inspired, man, because I've been watching the journey. I've been sharing little clips of the journey. People have been making a lot of comments. Like, you've been walking in the gym lately, and people are going like, do you see Tristin? Like, he is doing it. Because, dude, 99% of people, I'm telling you, when they have to make a major life change to get over some, like the final obstacle to really, blow the doors off their future and, have potential, they just never make that final change. I was just sitting down with the ESPN broadcaster on one of my recent podcasts, and he said he was almost 300 pounds, and he was, really good on the mic. He's got skills. He can hype people up and da-da-da-da. And he got to work his first ever NBA game. And he was like, dude, I rode on a private jet with the NBA team, got to call the game, and then, it was, that's the little boy's dream, oh, my God, it's right at my fingertips. And a guy at the super high level basically told him, you're never going to be taken seriously at a super high level, unfortunately, if you look the way you look. And I'm not saying you have to change. You do what's best for you. But I'm telling you right now that, this is just the way it is, and if you really care about your dreams, you'll make the change. And when he told me that on the podcast, a lot of people would take that and be like, how dare you say that? Blah, blah, blah. I can look however I want to look. That's not fair. If I'm good on the mic, I should. And he didn't. He said, all I asked myself was, is this man right? is this man right? Does my image and the way I keep myself and my physical appearance, is this a factor towards me being a commentator at the highest levels to be able to be, this world-class sports broadcaster and pursue my dreams? And he went, the man's right. And now he's like 80 pounds down when he was sitting with me on the podcast. He looks in great shape now because he's like 6'3". He's in good shape now. He's an older guy, and like he didn't play victim. He didn't get angry. He didn't get emotional at the truth hurts sometimes, dude. It sucks that like if you want to be on a television personality, they want you to be better looking. That sucks if you're ugly. If you're heavily overweight, and you were like, yeah, but I'm happy with my body the way it is. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. And if you're happy with your body genuinely, then like live like that, I guess. But if you're trying to get in a career where you're like, I want to be a model, and a modeling agency is like, then you have to lose weight. That it just is what it is. Now, maybe there'll be a whole nother push and there'll be a modeling campaign for plus size models and you'll fit into that. Cool. But at the end of the day, most people, when they're pushed like that, they don't actually make the change. You are making the change. Neil is making the change. And those are the people that achieve their dreams in my eyes. Because you're like, you know what? It's on me. I can't change your life, bro. And I can inspire you. I can try to motivate you. I can be a guide to you. I can try to be a mentor. But Tristin Canada is the only man on this earth that can really change Tristin Canada's life. And I'm witnessing it. And I'm telling you what, I'm inspired by you, man. What I'm witnessing, I'm inspired by. That video we just put up. Ooh, it almost gives me chills. I'm sure it gives you chills. Where you hear Ty on the mic, Tristin Canada. Like, that's a video that if you're in the UFC in 3 years and you're knocking motherfuckers out and you're taking home huge paychecks to your family and you're giving your daughter this beautiful life, ooh, that video is going to make me tear up. That video is going to make you tear up. That video is going to affect a lot of lives. So what I want you to look at now is you're changing your life, you're doing better, you're eating better, you're in a healthier relationship. A lot of the things are on track. How do you not self-sabotage? How do you stay on track? How do you keep your goals? And what do your goals look like? Like, if we had to lay it out on this podcast, when are we making a 205 debut?
I want to say I keep myself on point because I have a good support system. Everyone at the gym, all my teammates and my friends. But really, Emma keeps me on track, keep me motivated. She'll make my meals for me if, because I'm lazy. Sometimes I'll be like, well, I'll just eat after work. She'll meal prep me. That way I have my nutrition on point. And she just helps out with my daughter. She's just super inspirational to me and motivates me when I'm down. Sometimes, well, man, I want to go to Dave's Hot Chicken or something. She's like, nope, 205. And I have a time when I want to, and I want to be 235 by the July 16th card, so B2 can see that I'm coming, and then I want to be ready to go and knocking at your door, ready to go at 225, so I can cut to 205 by September, October.
I love it. I can't wait to see their faces because B2 loves you. They know you're a banger. They know when you step in the cage, there's going to be fireworks. Like, Tristin Canada has pull with B2 Fighting Series because they've seen little glimpses of your greatness. But they've only seen a fraction of what you really have the potential to become. But when they see you walk in the building at 235, they're going to go, is that Tristin? And then next thing you know, my messages are going to be blowing up off the hook about, like, when is he fighting? And I'm going to be like, chill out, boys. I love it. I think you've made a realistic timeline. You're on top of it, and you're going to hit plateaus. And plateaus can be incredibly frustrating. Like if you're like dropping, plateau, and you're just like stuck. You're stuck. And maybe it even goes up a little, and then you're stuck. You just got to stay the course. You are climbing a major mountain. So even when you take a couple steps and you're looking up and all you see is just the path, you don't even see the peak, you're still taking the steps. By taking the steps is how you reach the pinnacle. That's how you reach the peak. That's how you really, change your life and change the world. So Man, we've recorded an unbelievable hour of dialogue on this podcast. If there's anything else that you'd like to say on the podcast, go into, people you'd like to thank, just anything in general, we'll capture that. And then if not, we'll wrap this thing up, man.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for having me on. I want to say thanks for all the people that sponsor me and help me out. Thanks for all my teammates. Thanks for my girlfriend. And I just want to let people know. I mean, it sounds cliche and all that stuff and corny, but you really haven't seen a fraction of how good I am. And when I start to fight people my size and make it to 205, and when I go pro 85, I'm gonna. Everyone's gonna, people that counted me out and said, "Well, Tristin, your record and all this stuff," they're gonna eat their words because I'm coming. I'm coming, and this is the most motivated and dialed in I've ever been. I'm getting better at every area. Soon it's not gonna be Tristin the striker. It's gonna be, I'm gonna slam you on your face. I'm gonna take the fight wherever I want. And I'm enjoying the process, and the process is gonna reap the reward at the end of the year. And I can't wait.
And man, your story makes it so much better. I want you to realize that the fact that you've gone through what you have, the fact that you had that stepfather influence in your life, the fact that you've gone through those periods of dark depression and you had your identity stripped from you and you were considered to be this monster and you had to rebuild your life and you had to get down from 315 pounds. Well, goddamn, dude, that makes the story that much more powerful. Who wants to watch a movie of a person that was born with the silver spoon, natural athlete his whole life, good-looking, articulate, blew through his career, made it to the UFC? Yeah, duh. Like, duh. Why wouldn't you? You know what you want to watch? You want to watch the story of someone that has extreme difficulty, that develops perseverance and resiliency and overcomes obstacles and makes it and does incredible feats and changes their life and the future lives of their family forever. That is the hero story. So when you look back, don't wish anything was different. Thank God you went through what you went through, because otherwise you wouldn't be the man that sits with me here today. So, man, ladies and gentlemen, if you do not follow and support Tristin Canada, it's all right. One day you will, and you'll look back and say, wow, I had no idea who that man really was. So, man, it was an honor to sit with you today. It was a pleasure to have this conversation. We'll wrap this thing up.
Thank you.